can see
That's
for
it.
miles and miles.
Of
We're
course.
off. The Midweek Drive has actually merged.
There we go.
And we see that basically Paul Powers, proving that he's a member of the Cybernaut Club, in fact, founding member of the Cybernaut Club from the east coast of England. He's at, of course, the wonderful Anglia Ruskin environment, is Mr. Computer. We've got Paul Powers in duplicate Philip Hurdwood. Isn't that exciting?
No, I'm astonished. This is almost like, something out of a science fiction film, isn't it?
Genuinely, sir.
I'm loving it. I'm actually loving it. This is a first for
Thanks,
Siren
guys.
Radio, I think.
Well, I like to feel that radio, television without the pictures, it's just a whole range of new activities that we're putting together.
I couldn't agree more.
We may well
Listen,
be joined...
I've not met you before, Paul. Tell us about yourself. What apart from looking stunning with that wonderful beard, which I had one up until a few weeks ago. What do you actually do? Where are you based?
I'm currently based down in Kings Lynn. So I'm living in Norfolk since June 2019.
Right.
I moved down here to work at the College of West Anglia. I got a job here as course director for level 2 computing and ICT.
Right.
And I also teach for Anglia Ruskin University in computer science on their honours degree.
Wow, gosh. Yeah, all stuff which goes way over my head, way over my pay grade. Anything that I'm working on which involves anything to do with IT or developing stuff and, all the rest of it, I just have to say, I don't know how you do this. I just don't know anything about it. I'll look at it and say, that looks good. I like the look of that, but I can't actually construct any
Philip,
of it.
you know the line. What you have to say is, say it with conviction. As long
Say
as
it
you
with
say
conviction.
That is the actor's mantra. That's very important.
Absolutely. And I know what I like by it.
Precisely.
So that's
we can also welcome an undergraduate from the University of Lincoln making his debut on the production. He's a keen performer when it comes to community radio, though, in Cambridge and thereabouts. I think it's in the arts. It's Tom Davis. How are you, Tom?
Hi, Tom.
There. How's it going? Hang on, I'm just going to turn my video on.
Well, we're chilling, we're sorting our ways through, and there we are, Tom Davis in person. Wow, this is great. Actually, because of social distancing, this is one of the first times I've actually seen Tom face to face. It's strange enough, even though I'm his tutor. It's great.
I often had that remark made to me when I was at university. I haven't seen you. This is like week 12 of a unit, and it was like, haven't actually. Sorry, you are.
Yeah,
better late than never.
Old days, old times. But anyway, gentlemen, we're all here. It's an all-male midweek drive for a change. So let's actually motor on. One of the topics of conversation I want to actually share with people tonight is, Philip, embarrassing moments, okay? Embarrassing moments when you're actually interviewing people and you sort of think that it's a big fan. There's a key sort of aspect they've chosen. You've built up the time to actually sort of ask the question, etc. Everything's actually looking wonderful. And then suddenly you kind of sort of build up to your thing tremendously. And then you think, oh no, I've asked somebody who's been in a certain well-known series and they hated it. All the things they could have possibly actually dealt with, this was like the most embarrassing thing you could have ever asked them at all. Have you ever experienced anything like that, Philip?
Oh gosh, no, I've only ever interviewed one person, and that was for you on your behalf. It was Paul Daniels, the television magician chap, who I believe came from the Middlesbrough area at one point. And he was ever so nice. And I don't know quite why, but you asked me to. He apparently was coming into the studio or something, and he was doing a show that night in the area. And you said, Phil, can you interview him? So I'm sort of thinking, what the heck am I going to say, And in fact, he was absolutely charming and delightful and totally professional. And it was great. And I was able to just flow with it and just ask questions about how does it feel to come back to Middlesbrough, all this sort of stuff.
All that. I mean, he's dead now, but it had nothing to do with your interview. So I just want to clarify that.
Well, I would certainly hope not. Otherwise, I might have said, didn't you used to be Paul Daniels?
Exactly. And if he's on the show now, it would be real magic in all sorts of ways.
It's magic. You won't like it, not a lot, and all that.
Likewise, again, there are always sort of moments where we sort of come around to this whole side of things where possibly you're sort of thinking, well, what are things which maybe could be seen as a faux pas? A kind of classic sort of momentary sort of aspect of sort of mistakes, which you think, well, maybe actually this shouldn't have actually been there. Maybe actually if you just kind of associate certain key areas that are sort of developed, maybe you'll actually see a sort of situation that refers to that. And I mean, I think, Thomas, you might be able to sort of identify with one of those clubs who are really great, and the other sort of club that basically aren't so great? I mean, would you actually share some of the pain I'm kind of making you revisit here as in my capacity as your tutor, really?
Yes, well, I'm on the side that isn't so great, and absolutely, I spent that 90 minutes watching our team get torn apart, and yeah, it's
clearly,
pretty sad
as a
to
Manchester
watch.
City follower, City till I die, obviously, a bit of tension, but we got there in the end. That's the important thing. As you might imagine, Thomas, quite pleased with the result. Let's hope we do it against Chelsea. I like to feel we'll be beating Chelsea for all Spurs fans. That's the important thing.
Yes, I'll certainly be a City fan in that one.
Yeah, you'll be beating them for football fans everywhere, I believe.
Well, this is so true. And then we fly over to the joys of California to meet the other Phil. The other Phil who's just connected to audio now, otherwise we'd have to lip read the whole thing. Phil Leirness, welcome back, sir, to the Midweek Drive, all male edition. How are you?
Oh, you mean we're going to be reading letters from listeners?
Yeah.
No,
precisely.
not that kind of mail, Phil. But it could be. That could be another slot we could invent.
Do you know, actually, between Philip Hurdwood and Phil Leirness and myself, I think we've clocked up around about 300 odd midweek drives across the years and the decades,
Probably,
really.
yeah.
In some
Well,
ways, probably more, but nice to work through that.
Can I just ask an embarrassing question? You appear, Alexius, to be wearing a tartan tam o' shanter.
Yes,
I don't know if anybody else can see that, which is actually very fetching.
I thought so. But again, moving back to obviously where we were just a matter of moments ago, when of course we were flagging this up. Now you might sort of think, oh, it's a Hollywood sort of stuff. This is obviously sort of going to be focusing on the joys of our Hollywood correspondent, Phil Leirness, etc. I mean, Phil Leirness, have you ever been in a situation that you've kind of really psyched yourself up to do an interview with a celebrity about a show that he might have been on, and working that, and actually it's the worst show that they were ever sort of there, and it's just, where did I go wrong? Oh no,
No.
Good. Right. Succinct.
Wait,
I
no.
believe-
In fact,
yes.
I used to make behind the scenes documentaries. When DVD was a new format, it was very popular to have these behind the scenes making of featurettes on all of them until they realized no one would ever watch them. And most of the movies that I was making these making ofs about were terrible, terrible movies. Just, I mean, utterly dreadful, just cannon fodder of the worst kind. And I realized very early when I was thinking, how do I ask these celebrities questions? How do we pretend that this stuff is worthy and not just a payday? It occurred to me very early on, wait a minute, it's every bit as hard to make a bad film as it is to make a good film. And nobody sets out to make a bad film. So what is it when you're in the process and part of your voice is telling you this dog won't hunt? How do you keep lifting that Sisyphean creative boulder up the hill day after day? And the truth is, it's no different than when you're making a great film, because you can't show up one day and say, boy, that stuff we did yesterday, last week, it's great. Because the moment you start looking back, now you're falling behind on the task that's in front of you. So it was really about, no, just drill down more into the process and the joys that come out of making creative work, regardless of what the end result may or may not be. And then the other issue of it, Alexius, is that no matter how bad something is, people like it.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah, no, they do. No matter how awful, how irredeemable, how incompetent something is, people still voted for Trump. So you never know. And so you just try to kind of ease that out, and you go to, what's interesting, which really is the passion that people bring to a process, because so much is out of your control anyway. And even when you've done something that's really good, odds are if it's really good, it's ahead of the time anyway. So it's going to take a while for people to catch up to it.
Yeah, that's very true. And I loved what Noel Coward said when he went backstage after a performance of a particularly bad play. And he went backstage, and of course the actors are all thinking, oh my God, it's Noel Coward. What's he going to say? What's he going to say? They said, well, I used to call him Master, was his sort of nickname. He said, well, Master, what did you think? And he said, oh my dear, he said, what can I possibly say?
So true. But listen, enough of
oh, look,
such.
good Lord, good heavens. That was something I was in.
One of these people is Robert Stevens. The other
I'll
one
be damned.
Hurdwood in Year of the French. Is that not
Well,
so?
I'll be blessed. Good grief. God, that's a blast from the past, isn't it?
Well,
good heavens.
You see, I like to feel as though we're raising that level of the radio show to being a radio show with even more pictures. You know, which is important.
I'm astonished.
And as you can see, Phil Leirness, Philip Hurdwood there, very much epitomising a young Roger Moore, I feel, you know, in his kind of role. Philip, what was your role in this particular one, and why was Robert Stevens looking so bemused in that particular shot?
I was the head eyebrow lifter, as a matter of fact, in the Roger Moore film. No, Robert, we were playing brothers, believe it or not. We were playing very wealthy Irish Catholic landowners, which was an unusual thing. In 1798, when the action took place, based on a historic episode, when the French forces joined with the native Irish people to essentially kick the Brits out of Ireland. It was a failed mission because the first convoy of ships that came across from France were blown off the coast by some storms, and they weren't able to land. Some couple of years later, they did manage to land. A new expedition was mounted, and some ships arrived, by which time the British forces had increased their military presence. But it was a very close run thing, and the Irish damn nearly won. It was only on one battle, which would have, and the Irish were beaten. But had it not been the case, and that the Irish had won, it would have changed the course of European history forever.
You mean we might have still had the colonies, Philip?
Well, Ireland would have become a satellite of France, and that would have affected European politics and world politics for the rest of time. But yeah, so we were playing brothers, and my character went on to become the first president of Ireland, of the Republic of Ireland.
You see,
so there you are now. So Robert and I played brothers, bless his heart. He was a wonderful actor, National Theatre actor, and husband of Maggie Smith at one point, and people like that. Yeah, he was
also now in heaven with Paul Daniels, magician, of course.
They're swapping anecdotes about me as we speak.
I would have thought so. So the bottom line is, Phil Leirness, you may sort of be bemused a little. I mean, when have you not been bemused? Let's face it, bemused can be your middle name. But in terms of this, why not only do we have two Paul Powers within this sort of environment? We have a Paul Powers who's looking right at camera, and we have a Paul Powers set up in his Cybernaut studio. I know, two Paul Powers, and one Tom Davis, who, as well as being a Spurs supporter, is flying the flag for Lincoln City because he's a true Lincoln City imp. Exactly. Let's hope we get promotion to the championship as well from that point of view. But also, why Seinfeld? Paul, would you like to share with the team why I've been nudging in this direction of having a Seinfeld backdrop there, you know, in terms of one of your favorite shows, and how it all went pear-shaped for a few moments a few weeks ago with Armin Shimmerman?
Well, yeah, thank you very much, Alex. So as you can see, you've got twice the power tonight, because I was sick of having mic issues and I was sick of being caught out. So I've got one on my phone and one on my machine. So, I've got to have a backup. So
you do have that honor, Paul. You're the first person we've had in the nigh on 1,000 Zoomers we've done over the last year.
This is called Belt and Braces Radio, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. who's actually got two channels working. That's genius.
Unbelievable.
Anyway,
so with Seinfeld, I believe that you've got that up because because it's an amazing show, and that's about it. No, actually, what happened a couple of weeks ago was I had the good grace and good fortune to meet via Zoom Armin Shimmerman, and all day I've been thinking, wow, Armin Shimmerman, he plays the caddy in the episode of Seinfeld. So I was really excited to ask him about that. And I believe his words were something along the lines of, "That was the worst experience of my life."
This is true. But it's all right. He forgives you. He's back with us again next week. All will work well. I mean, Phil Leirness, I could tell you, raising your eyebrows there, eerie about Armin, etc. Paul homing straight in on Seinfeld as a sort of a treat personified. What would you like to ask? And to who would you like to ask it?
I just would throw out, at the risk of being over-prepared, sometimes it does behoove us to research the question we're going to ask first. It's a little bit like a courtroom. Yes, you want to get to know the person, and at the same time, never ask a question you don't know the answer to. There is a, maybe until you know that there's a rapport built up in the certain, but boy, to lead with a question that you didn't know the answer to is, that's dangerous, my friend. It's dangerous.
But Phil, how could he not enjoy it? They look like they're having so much fun on the set. When you
people hated that show. Everything is about how hated it was. Like them killing off George's fiance because they wanted to kill off the actress who played the part. I mean, it was like Hollywood at its best, a seething pool of hatred and backstabbing.
Beautiful. I'm glad that I can be on the fringe of that, just by bringing up those painful memories.
Here's a Seinfeld story for you. Not Seinfeld the sitcom actor, but Seinfeld the stand-up comic. Wow, he was also a sitcom actor. He flew into Seattle, was driving up to British Columbia, Vancouver, British Columbia, beautiful country, to do a 1 hour live set there, and then he was going to come back. So they stopped him at the border and they said, "What's the purpose of you coming in?" And he said, "Well, I'm coming in to do a show. Are you getting paid for this?" "Yes, I'm getting paid for this." "How much are you getting paid for this?" He said, $100,000. They said, $100,000. And he said, "Hey, I'm working a whole hour."
That puts it all into context. Well, I heard a story similar. We have a series, you may know, Phil, in the UK called Coronation Street, and it's a long-running soap. It's been running since Noah was a kid, and it's been really running a long time. Anyway, and one of the actresses or actors was in Hollywood and chatting away to another actor who was in another American soap, and the kind of the issue of the subject of money came up, and she said, how much do you kind of make with these American soaps? And she said, "Oh, it's about $150,000. And she said, "Not a bad salary." And she said, "That's an episode." And the English girl thought, "Well, that's what I'm getting a year."
I would like to just backtrack and say, apparently it's not that obviously the whole of Seinfeld was a miserable experience, but it is one of those shows where the tone is so unique, and the process of getting to that tone is so refined that if someone came in and was on the outside of that for whatever reason, it's already a difficult thing to be a day player as an actor.
Sure.
I'm sure Phil can
Never been a day player, but I know what you mean.
But when actors come in, you see what it's like.
Well, it's Spot the Day Player. You watch that on a film and you see somebody who's shaking, and like the Laurence Olivier story when there was a day player came into one of his films, and one of the ones he was directing, and this poor actor was crapping himself. He was shaking like a leaf, and every time he tried to get the words out, he'd stumble over the words, and that was it. All he had was one scene, one day's filming, and Laurence Olivier said, "For goodness sake," he said, "relax," and the guy just melted into a jelly, and that was the end of that.
Yelling at people to relax is my favorite thing to do, quite frankly. It's tough, and especially the longer running the show is, because now you have not only the cast, but you have a crew, and it's a family, and you're being dropped in as an utter outsider. And so, yes, Armin Shimmerman is someone with a great amount of experience, and of course skill, but experience. But that experience probably extends only so far as to keeping your composure. It doesn't necessarily allow you to fit right in to the particular shorthand, the particular tone, the particular process,
the dynamic, and all that. Yeah.
So it can be very tough.
Phil, you've just got to actually consider the kind of rigorous selection process we actually put people through so that Tom Davis can actually join us today. I mean, it's his first show, for goodness sake. He's just
I was about to say that, actually. I was sitting there listening patiently.
Never ever heard of Seinfeld, but what the hey? Have you heard of Seinfeld, Tom?
I won't lie.
Exactly. See, so that puts things in perspective, Paul. At the end of the day, Seinfeld, youth of today, never even heard of the show. So there we are. It's a different line entirely.
Tom Davis is the youth of today. Congratulations, Tom.
Yeah, literally.
That's quite a title.
The voice of his generation.
This is true.
Right. Absolutely. Do you feel, Tom, that you are in some way representative of your generation? Do you feel? How old are you, by the way? How old are you?
I'm 19.
Are you right?
It's quite a title to represent my whole generation, and well, I don't know if I sort of come under the sort of stereotypical categories of my generation. So I don't know if I would say I represent my whole generation, but I certainly am one of my own generation.
Tom, what's your official title at the University of Lincoln in terms of level 1 BA Honours Communications and Public Relations? What is your title?
My titles. Yeah. So what? So Mr.
As in student ambassador.
Oh, student ambassador. Yes, I even forget that at some point.
There we are.
I haven't been able to exercise that role that often. So.
But it's still a title that's there. So as student
absolutely.
Ambassador, clearly you represent your generation. QED.
Well, and he has diplomatic immunity, right? Doesn't he?
I would hope
an ambassador.
We all need that.
If I don't know if it sounds this way to everybody else, but if Tom truly is the voice of his generation, representative of his generation, I will know that I've met someone of his generation when I hear the lovely reverb.
Yes,
they do speak in reverb, young people these days, don't they? We've got stereo presenters on the guests on the radio show, and we also have reverb voice. It's amazing. It's amazing what we can do.
Raising that bar.
It's a sort of digital manipulation. You, of course, will be able to talk about, Paul, the digital end of things, because you're a bit of a whiz on all that stuff.
And in fact, Paul, I know you'll have done your research on both Philip and Phil Leirness. So who would you like to put your embarrassing question to effectively cause more humiliation on the Midweek Drive? Go for it. Well, let's face it, guys, I'll have to say, Paul has become a father for the second time. Literally, how old is the child now?
She's 4 weeks this week on Monday.
Wow,
so
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
My condolences. But that's the explanation for the two Pauls. Suddenly I realize he needs there to be two of them. He's got two kids.
Exactly. He's been pulled in every direction, and he's just fallen apart into two
I know it's not great radio to just keep referring to what we're seeing, but I am fascinated watching for the moment when one Paul does something different than the
exactly.
other.
It's like that thing in Mad Magazine that always made me laugh and makes me laugh to this day. Until I tried your new Wonder bodybuilding course, I was a 7-stone weakling. I am now 2 separate gorillas. And it just... The idea of 2 entirely separate gorillas.
And it's fair to say, because of the Cybernaut Club, Paul Powers occasionally likes to actually have the whole thing up on Zoom as a video. He's done this with Robin Pierce in the past. He's done it with the past episodes of the Midweek Drive. So there may well be a visual aspect in here as well. Anyway, Paul, back to where we were. Whom would you like to speak to? Whom would you like to question?
Well, I am a little bit hesitant because I've got a question that I don't know the answer to.
You've come to the right place, apparently.
Yeah. This is the home of the permanently bewildered, isn't it?
So I have my question is for Philip Hurdwood.
Oh God, here we go.
I had a look. I had a look at your filmography, and I noticed that
I didn't. Yeah, Seinfeld. I didn't. No Seinfeld.
No, I noticed that you were in one of my all-time favorite films, which is Educating Rita.
Oh my, that's a long time ago. Yeah.
Which I think is 1983. So I was I was 2 when that came out.
Gosh, well, I wasn't much older actually, as you can see.
So what was that like? Because
it was really, I really enjoyed it an enormous amount. It was great fun to shoot that film. No, actually, I had an embarrassing moment on that film. Wait for this. There was one particular scene, I remember it so vividly because I wanted the ground to swallow me up. There was one scene where I had to trot down the stairs with another actor, and I was talking about something that the Michael Caine character had said and saying, do you know, he actually said, and I thought, I'll do it in Michael Caine's voice. So we're shooting, and I come down and I said, do you know, he actually said, I think you should study a bit more Bertolt Brecht, or whatever it was. And the director said, cut. Phil, he said, I know what you're trying to get at. He said, but no, I don't think it's not going to work for me, that one. But anyway, he said, Mike, come over here. There's a young actor who can do your voice. Along comes Michael Caine, legend, Hollywood icon. He comes along and he said, so you can do my voice? I said, he said, go on in, do it. So I'm standing there on location on set with the whole crew and other members of the cast, and he says, "Go on then, do it." So I'm standing there, I'm thinking, "What the fuck am I going to pardon me? What the heck am I going to say?" Sorry,
there's an edit already.
There's an edit.
Yeah,
I thought, "What the heck am I going to say?" So I said, "Do you know that if a man falls from the top of the Empire State Building dressed in a Harris Tweed suit, he will take exactly 3.5 seconds to hit the ground? Not a lot of people know that." And he said, "That was very good. One of us must go." He said, "It won't be me." As you can imagine, I wanted the ground to swallow. I was red-faced and sweating and thinking, I want to die. I don't want to be here anymore. But anyway, it was okay. But that was my embarrassing moment. So I've combined two things, the film and an embarrassing moment. So there you are.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. Myself and the wife, we're going to watch Educating Rita tonight because she's never actually seen it.
Oh, really? Gosh.
Yeah.
Well, tell her to watch out for the skinny young thing in the with the hairstyle.
Tiger. Yeah, you're called Tiger. That's right.
That's right. Yeah. I remember there was a fellow I used to knock around with at one stage. He used to always call me Tigger when he met me. I said it was Tiger, and this is back when the film was made. I said it's Tiger is the character, not Tigger. Oh, that's right, Tigger. Right, Tiggs. Right, thanks very much. Anyway, there we are.
Baby.
Clearly, Philip, over nigh on 40 years, nearly 40 years, 35 years of actually doing these shows. And it's our first edit. Thank Lord it's the pre-record, so I can actually take that one out, basically.
Well, I do apologise. My bad.
Philip, potty mouth Hurdwood. Okay,
potty
Phil Leirness, who would you like to throw a question to?
Well, I just I felt for you when he decided to drop an F-bomb in the middle of what had been until then a relatively pleasant experience. It became a somber occasion at the drop of a hat. But I have been doing a podcast for 14 years, and in the last year and a half, we've started going live as a radio show. And since then, it has been as if I've demanded that my co-hosts swear throughout the show, which requires so much quick editing and bleeping. And finally, this week, I said, it's been a year and a half on the radio. And his excuse was, I'm Canadian. I don't know what that means.
I don't get, no. Well, perhaps it's the Bears or the Mounties. Got to be one of the two, something like that.
Back to yourself, Paul. Going well so far. Where would you like to go to now?
Okay. Well, I'd like to ask the other Phil. I was looking at your
first time we've ever had both Phils in vision at the same time.
Not in stereo, I might add, but similar.
It's a beautiful experience. So Phil, I read that you have, or perhaps you still do, but have in the past been a stand-up comedian, which is something that I absolutely love and adore. Like, I love stand-up comedy, love podcasting. So obviously Joe Rogan is like a huge hero of mine. And I've recently just found out about your podcast, so I'm definitely going to be checking that out soon. And I'll promote that on the Cybernaut Club website.
It's the chillpackhollywoodhour.com.
Yeah, chillpackhollywoodhour.com. So what was your why did you get into stand-up comedy? You went to the Comedy Store in Hollywood. So what was that like? And have you got any interesting stories from that time?
That's one question. All right. First off, we recently did on Chilpack Hollywood Hour a 2-part episode all about pursuing careers in live comedy that you might find really fun. It was a panel discussion that I moderated, really funny, but really fascinating and insightful about the different reasons people gravitate towards a career and why they keep going. And what has the experience of pandemic been like for people whose careers are live comedy, right? And so that would be the first thing I would say. I fell in love with comedy very early on. I don't know whether this was actually the original impetus, but I did have a rule in my household that I could get away with saying anything, in much the way that Phil Hurdwood does not get away with saying.
Thanks for reminding
on this
me.
show. I could get away with saying everything, provided it was a direct quote and I gave a citation. That opened the doorway to Richard Pryor albums and George Carlin albums. Language for any occasion and for any feeling or mood. So I fell in love with this. I've always written. So I love words. I love combining words in ways that people hadn't thought of to create different perceptions. This has been true for me before I even fell in love with cinema. So the concept of the word was probably my in. In terms of the Comedy Store, I had been performing live. I'd been writing comedy. And I went in and my first night went pretty well. So I was immediately invited back. And the next time back, Mitzi Shore, the legendary owner of the Comedy Store, mother of Pauly Shore, who some of you might remember, who currently exists in the Where Are They Now column. His mother, Mitzi Shore, was this impresario, legendary impresario of comedy. And she came to see my set the next week. And she had seen a tape, I understood, or heard a tape of the previous week. And she calls me aside and she says, why did you cut out the piece about X? And I don't remember what it was. And I said, well, because they laughed. That worked. I was really curious about whether I could take this other piece and rewrite it and get that to work. And she said, comedians keep what works and cut out what doesn't work. You, my friend, are a writer.
Oh.
And it was so liberating to me. And at the same time, I was falling in love with the process of filmmaking and realizing that more than as a writer and an actor, I did want to become a director. I did want to get into editing because the process of film, especially comedy, is such that you get to keep exploring it in different ways and then create the one thing that is the purest expression of what you were exploring. And then you get to move on. And that's who I am. So I have hosted stand-up shows through the years. I have interviewed stand-ups. I have provided platforms for stand-ups. I've written parts in movies for stand-ups because I find something about them innately so compelling that I give them an opportunity, hopefully to do something they've never done before. But I am not a stand-up.
But wonderfully, Philip, of course, given that we've just celebrated National Stand-Up Week in Britain, and we'll be doing a feature about how we should stand up to keep us healthy and fit coming up after this particular piece, which also follows a fascinating item we did earlier on how you should actually protect your cats from being sunburnt. Very important, protecting your cats from being sunburnt, which is all critical. I noticed you were raising your mug there to signify a wondrousness there with the Spock routine. I will raise my TJ Hooker mug in comparison. So
we can't see it, Alex. We can't see it.
It's invisible.
Part of the. It's your Aurora Borealis mug. So.
I will actually sort of change that then and make sure that you can actually see the mug before we actually ask those last two questions, which I know we've reached that time already where we actually have to sort of adjust things accordingly. So there we are. Greetings. Welcome to, of course, one of the finest series. One to check out, I would have thought, Thomas, for your good self, Heather Locklear, James Darren, and of course William Shatner, who was a joy to work with, according to Armin Schumann, in, of course, the wonderful world of Boston Legal. If only you asked about Boston Legal, Paul, completely different zone entirely. But never mind, you went down on the Seinfeld route.
Or Star Trek. Or the obvious one.
Yeah, Deep Space Nine, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's okay. It's okay. He's back with us. I'm keeping you apart for a wee while, but we'll coordinate.
No, going for the deep cut is actually a bold move, and it can really lead to friendships. If, as an interviewer, you go for the deep cut, they appreciate that. But again, you need to know the answer.
Philip, would you like to ask the team those last two questions or select the folk? I would hand it over to Philip Hurdwood, but frankly, I don't know what he's going to drop on us this time. Who knows?
My mic. I'll drop the mic.
So Phil Leirness from Los Angeles, put the questions to Thomas, to Paul, and to Philip.
To Tom, the voice of his generation, have you enjoyed your maiden voyage on the Midweek Drive?
Absolutely. It's been very interesting to be involved in. I certainly want to be involved in the future.
And can we look forward to seeing you and your absolutely terrific hair on a future installment of the Midweek Drive?
Absolutely, and I'll be representing my generation at each step of the way.
Excellent.
Now, I'm concerned that with Paul, I will get two answers. Which will make me both happy and sad for him. Paul's, have you enjoyed today's connection with us on the Midweek Drive?
I've got to tell you, this has been my favorite so far. I've really enjoyed it. And thank you, Alex, for the ripping.
No, I mean, I could have brought Robin Pierce on as well after the 2 hours you did with him on Cybernaut Club, but never mind. It's all a quick plug for Cybernaut Club. How can people access it? Who knows? You'll probably Tom, Philip.
It's cybernaut.club. I've recently updated the website, so you can just go to one place now and you can access all of the social medias on there and get in touch. And if you've got something interesting to say or a project that you want to talk about, you can come on. We'll do a podcast. We'll talk about it.
Wow.
And can we look forward to you coming on to this show again in the near future?
Yeah, I hope so. If Alex will have me.
Alex has nowhere else to go. It's just a revolving door of, he's lost his mind. He's gone through a year of virtual backdrops in this one episode. I still don't know how to do it. I only just learned that it's rude to drink coffee on Zoom, and yet I've been doing it the whole time.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, thanks for having me. Phil Hurdwood, have you had a great time?
I've had an absolutely fabulous time, and I've really enjoyed every minute of it, and thank you very much.
Can we look forward to hearing your dulcet tones again soon?
Oh, you bet your life.
Alex, back to you.
Has it been good for your good self? Have you literally gone on the beach?
Oh, my goodness. Whether I can see the TJ Hooker cup or not, you always have a lovely mug, Alex, and it's delightful to see it.
And I take it you'll be back again in the not too distant future.
Who can answer those things off the top of their head?
Phil Hurdwood, Phil Leirness, Paul Powers, and Tom Davis. Huge thanks. Keep on keeping on. And up next, as promised, how to protect your cat from sunburn.
Absolutely vital knowledge. Goodbye.